Mary Meet Annie here. This video is called Change and the Pagan Pilgrim. And I am inspired to it because of journaling I did following up on my church service today at my Unitarian Universalist church. And the service there today was very much about change, and that the only thing constant in this world is change. And of course we teach that from so many faith perspectives, and of course as pagans we are encouraged to embrace change as transformation, that nothing remains the same, that everything comes to its most powerful point, it peaks in a way, declines if not dies, and is transformed and born again in the turning of the wheel, and the wheel of our lives and our psyche also, into something new. The only constant in the world, the only steadiness in the world is change. What inspired me to think about this is, amongst the many things that were said in that sermon today, the minister said something that particularly resonated with me, and particularly resonated with me as a pagan woman, and that was that our lives are nothing but change, nothing but constant, never-ending, never-ceasing change. And that when we are living our lives and we are attempting to be in accord with our relationship to the divine, the place that we will most powerfully feel divine presence is in the place that doesn't change amidst all the change. And I like that dichotomy. First, the power of growing and evolving as a human is the constant change in our life. And secondly, that when we get to a spiritual maturity, where amongst that constant fluctuation and ebb and flow, up and down, and movement and change in our life, we get to a point where we sense what remains the same. And the older you get, I think the easier it gets in a way to look back, because you have more years to look back on, and sense what was steady, what was rock solid, what was the core of you, the essence of you and your relationship to everything that's not you, that stayed the same amidst all the changes of your life. That really had me thinking about the power of pagan pilgrimage. Our life, our entire life, is a journey in search of something sacred. And yes, we do a lot of that in the external way. We see it in the world around us. We see it in the world of nature. We see it in the faces of our loved ones, and stumble across it amongst strangers on the street. We see it in community. We find it in meditation alone. We are always moving forward in search of it, of further exploring it, of deepening it. Our lives as a pilgrimage. I never would have thought about the word pilgrim when it came to the way we live our lives as pagans. And the minister only mentioned the word pilgrim once. And it leapt out to me because it's not a word that you'll hear very often in a Unitarian Universalist church. But I certainly knew about pilgrimages and the pilgrims. Yeah, the word leapt out to me from the front of that church today, and I liked the word. And I came home and I read about it to see what the word meant. Of course, it has many different meanings. But all of a sudden, it lended again and reminded me the sacredness of our lives, of every moment that we live, of living them fully. We cannot find the sacred in the journey of our life, indeed our pilgrimage, if we aren't as aware as we possibly can be every moment along the way. And I couldn't help but think that the more we are aware in this constant world of change around us, the more our life becomes a pilgrimage of experience, in search of always furthering our relationship to the sacred, whatever the sacred becomes to us. And I was very moved and inspired, and will meditate often over the next week on the more life transforms around us. Whether we embrace it, whether it is joyful, it could be terribly sad, it could be absolutely traumatic. The more we embrace change, don't avoid it, but face it, go with it, and learn from it and move. That pilgrimage of life is a constant movement. Pilgrimage isn't standing still, it's always moving forward. The more we do that, the more we become aware of what remains the same in the face of everything that changes so constantly around us. Now, he encouraged us in that service to think about that in relation to family and friends and our small relationships, and also in our relationships to community. I like thinking of my voyage in this life as a pagan pilgrimage, always in search of the sacred, always moving forward. And I like the balance to that being, which I have always felt that as we go through life, meeting challenges along the way, experiencing all the joys and sorrows, bliss and turmoil that is our life, it is that which brings us to understand the things which do not change, which we hold the closest and the dearest. So often, in the pilgrimage that is my life, the steady thing is my relationship to others. And when he mentioned the power of love for others and that others hold for us, that really inspired me additionally out of that. And he left me with one more thing to think about. And that was, we talked about the journey of life and it being ever changing, we being ever changing within it. And then he brought up something which I am going to give some thought to. It's the same at the level of the divine. Always changing, always transforming, always growing, always moving forward. When I think back over my life, if there's moments at which I connected to the thing that felt the same amongst all the turmoil, I am now realizing that that thing which felt the same, one of the reasons why I could not put a word to it or make it be definite, describe it to the T, know it at the literal sense, is that thing changes and grows too. Oh, I love the idea. I love the idea of the gods being ever changing themselves in their own way, on their own pilgrimage, that they aren't something static and carved in stone. The power of that to a modern pagan, to me, is the fact that we adore the old ones. We embrace them as part of our practice, our spirituality. We honor them. But they're not what they used to be either. And I love thinking about the fact that they also have the solid substance of what they are and what their energy is, but they also are moving forward and changing. I like coming out of the Sunday service and having plenty to think about. Change as the only constant in life, and viewing our life as a pagan pilgrimage, and also the concept that the gods themselves are on their own pilgrimage. Sunday thoughts from a Unitarian Universalist, which I wish you mirth and reverence. Merry part.